This week on the Gary House podcast, we've got Harvey Gunn. Mate, thanks for joining me. We've just had some technical issues my end, so thanks for your patience, mate. It was, we were meant to go straight into questions, and it's took me 15 minutes to get this going, but
Yeah, it's the nature of the game, isn't it? Thanks for having me
yeah,
on.
no worries, mate. First up, I want to hear more about how you became half of Frankie Stew and Harvey Gunn and how that all happened, mate.
Um, we was childhood friends originally. So this must be when we were about 14 or 15, all kind of knocking around in the same group of friends. I was messing around at the time, making music. I always kind of had since a teenager, DJing and making music. I started making more kind of hip hop stuff, and he started. I knew at the time he was with another group of lads making hip hop music, and we got together, made one song, and then that was it. And that was remember us making it in my mum's house, and sitting there thinking when we were going to upload it, like, what should we call it? And I was like, I don't want it to be Frankie Stew, and then in brackets, like, produced by Harvey Gunn. I was
Yeah.
like, both of us, like Frankie Stew and Harvey Gunn, and that was the kind of seminal moment that cemented, like, coming probably up to 11, 12 years of working with each other now.
I quite like the fact that it's just your names, but do you ever like look back and think, shit, that was like, why didn't we come up with something more like a different name or something? But I personally like it. It's your names, like. But do you ever look
Mate,
back
you
and
know
think
what?
that?
I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was looking at, like, the festival on festival
Yeah.
billings, and it's like, fuck, our name just takes up so much space. It's such a long name, but nah, I mean, it's cool. It's what we kind of went with, and yeah, there was never any other kind of other name in contention for it. It was always just our names from the beginning. I think maybe when you're younger, you think it's a bit cool because it's kind of gives your name a bit of
Mm.
something else. But yeah, in hindsight, I probably could have had something that rolls off the tongue a bit easier.
Well, you've got quite good surnames for I think, haven't you? They don't like, yeah, you haven't got long surnames or double barrel surnames and anything like
It's
that.
the same as you. It's like people always say two syllable first name and then a single syllable last name for a stage name. Gary House, Harvey Gunn,
Yeah,
Britney Spears. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, it works, mate. So that's a long time, I guess. Like, how old are you both now?
I am 27 now, so coming on
Yeah.
28. Frankie's 28. But yeah, my first introduction to music was going to, like, a youth club.
Mm.
When I was, oh God, probably like 13 or 14. Um, and they used to have decks and that in there. And all people used to just go in there and spit and DJ. And I started DJing when I was there, but it was like all the vinyls they only had vinyl decks. And they had a big box full of vinyls, and it was all drum and bass and like dubstep and jungle. So that's what I originally started making. And then I kind of transitioned over into hip hop quite a few years later.
That was going to be my
Uh,
next question. It's like I've listened to your music, and like I don't know if this is meant to be this way, but I couldn't put my finger on. Is it meant to be? Is it rap? Is it drum and bass? There's like a bit of everything. Like, is it? There's even like garage in there. I don't know. Just from my limited knowledge of music, but is it? You've definitely got a distinctive sound. I think.
well, no,
Is
well,
is there a genre, or do you just make what you like? Both of you.
mate, yeah, I was going to say, firstly, thanks. I take that kind of thing as a compliment, and we definitely do just try and make what we like. It's hard
Mm,
to kind of, sometimes it's hard when I think the listeners might find it difficult when they can't put things in categories that easily, but
mm,
we've never tried to pigeonhole ourselves, and we just kind of make what's authentic to us. We've both got such eclectic taste of music that have kind of changed a lot over the years. Like, when we were younger, it was all grime. Everyone listened
mm.
to grime, and then it was kind of hip hop. And then when I got a bit older and we started going out clubbing and that, then it's more like the dance music became a bigger part of our lives. So it's always been super eclectic, and I like to always try and make something a bit different with my production. I think the one thing that I try to carry through it all is like quite UK sounding, quite UK influenced. All of it, like, I've
Yeah.
always been more influenced by UK hip hop, UK garage, like even the drums stuff and the jungle stuff. It's always been, yeah, big kind of UK influence. But other than that, we just get together and make what happens, really, man.
And like the other half of it, Frankie, was he? Has he always been? Was he rapping already? Because it's like, well, fate or whatever you want to call it, mate. But it's like because you don't rap on the tracks, do you? Well, I've not heard you.
Nah, nah. So we work, yeah, exclusively with each other pretty
Yeah,
much, bar a few other things along the road. But Frankie was rapping with another group of lads at the time called Concept of Thought. And then me and him started working together, and I think their thing kind of, yeah, slowed down perhaps, or they were all busy with other stuff, and me and Frankie just kind of went in hard on it from quite a young age, and tried to forge our own sound really, and tried to
mm,
not kind of like not fit into any of the scenes too much. We're down in Brighton, so you're always a bit disconnected from London and a bit kind
yeah.
of like disconnected from it all. But that allowed us to just get our heads together and just work on a lot of music over the years.
Being in Brighton, I guess you have just influences from all over the place as well. I've only visited, but yeah, you could walk down the street and you've got just such a mixture of cultures and yeah, just influences everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, mate, definitely. Brighton's a cracking place to grow up as a kid. It was great. I feel like it's more of a like it's a big cultural exporter. Like you have a lot of artists who kind of
Mm,
start here and they usually will go on and go and do something else, and move up to London or whatever. But at the time when me and Frankie first started, there was a really big UK hip hop scene in Brighton.
mm.
Um, there were a few kind of weekly or monthly nights that would bring crowds down and bring rappers down from further afield, and that kind of dissipated over the years. But when we first started, that was really really strong.
When I remember, like, I messaged you on Instagram and it was like, because when I was 13, 14, 15, I had vinyl decks in the house. And
Yeah.
I remember I'd saved up for months to get them. And even then, I think like my mum had to put half of it towards it, kind of thing. And
Mhm.
then, and then it was like going to the record shop. I had to get a bus an hour to the record shop, kind of thing. I could probably afford 3 records a month or something. So I was
Yeah.
like mixing in my mum's old vinyl stuff, and it was a shit show. But at the time, it was like I was just in the bedroom loving it. And then some of the lads and people we would like, yeah, we would basically skip school and just play music in my bedroom because my mum was off at work and all that kind of thing. And and I was thinking, like, at 13, 14, 15, I was doing that, but I was clueless. Yeah.
Mm.
It was like having to try and learn from like reading Mixmag or something like that, really. And and yeah, literally just fading one out and another one in when
Yeah.
when you like some girl singing or something, thinking I was doing all right. So to think that like what you two were doing at that age, learning that craft, it's like you must feel good knowing that you've took it from that age all the way to now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's funny. It sounds like we had, even though we're like so many miles apart, pretty similar youth spent doing that. Literally,
Yeah.
like me and Frankie used to just we used to go to record stores, but buy like the bargain bins and take them home to try and
Yeah.
sample them, like to plug the turntable into the Mac and try and sample. But and yeah, not only one in every 100 was ever any good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, mate, at that age, 13, 14, I was just messing around. Like
Mm,
I dread to hear like what the mixes were like I was doing, but I definitely sparked a real interest in me, and it gave me like I don't know, it gave me some kind of direction and purpose, I think, to myself, because I'm sure we'll get onto the sport, but I
mm,
was never sporty at all at school. I had no interest like in sport, athletics, and everyone I knew was always there's some good sports schools in Brighton. All of my friends play rugby, football, or something. So I felt like when I found music, I kind of found my
mm.
fit, found my kind of crowd, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, but when I first started, it was definitely an avenue like that, and it's kind of yeah. It's if you do something a lot, as you know, with any training, you just get better and better over the years, and you get more confident in your abilities.
Mm. That's part of it, what I was thinking. Like, I came into running relatively late for some people. Like I was early to mid 20s when I started taking it a bit more serious, and that wasn't. I didn't just think I was going to be a runner. It's just because I couldn't afford the gym. Where I'd moved to Manchester, kind of
Mm.
thing, for work. Couldn't like couldn't afford the gym and all that kind of thing, but wanted to keep fit and just started running down the canals with
Yeah, yeah.
no clear plan basically. So, but I remember thinking a bit like you said about the music. It was like something clicked, and when I started learning one thing about it, I knew I could learn another thing and another
Mm,
thing. And in school, like I wasn't thick, but I wasn't applying anything, and
mm.
didn't really know what I was doing up until I found running, and then that was like an anchor point. It's like right, I was just learning everything I could, but becoming a little bit obsessive with it. So
Yeah,
I was thinking, like, I've been doing that for almost 15 years now. So, and you've been doing probably the same thing, but in the studio, like every day, learning and applying every single day. And like you say, do something for 10 years plus. Like, you're going to get good at it, aren't you? Really?
absolutely. And I think it's true for for so many like different avenues of life. Like it's a cliche, but it's true. You know, put those hours in, and you know, they do mostly pay off. And I'm someone that in previously in life, if didn't feel I was good at something quite quickly, I'd lose interest in it. So I've tried everything, man. I've tried everything, but it's the kind of things that have stood out has been the music and the running. I think
Mm,
um, I think two good examples of hard work and time put into it, you can really do a lot. I think, especially with the kind of longer distance endurance running, it's like it's time in it rather than ahead of anything else. But I wanted to ask you, whereabouts did you? So you're in North Wales now,
mm.
and you were in Manchester before. Whereabouts were you before? Where did you grow up?
Grew up in North Wales, but
Yeah,
like not very Welsh North Wales. So,
yeah. I was going to say 'cause I I couldn't quite place you.
yeah, like on the north coast, it's basically everyone calls you like plastic scousers or something because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
like an influx of Liverpool and Manchester and everything.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just a small town called Hollywell, and down on the coast, essentially.
yeah. Is it
When
Holyhead?
no, it's about 30 minutes, 45 minutes from Holyhead. So on that, like whether you took the train down or drove down that road, it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just off that carriageway to Holyhead on Anglesey.
We
Um,
took the ferry from there over to
yeah,
Dublin. Yeah.
yeah, it's nice ferry out and not so nice coming back in usually.
Oh, mate. On the way back, yeah, the way out, we thought it was a touch. There was a little cinema on the
Yeah, I had
and
that same
we were
experience.
we were so tired, so we all slept literally on the floor in the cinema. But on the way back, it was different gravy. It was Good Friday, and there was about 50 school buses of kids all going on their football, like 10-year-olds all going on their football tournaments. So there's about 500 like little kids without their parents just running riot on this ferry the whole time. Like we're so chronically sleep deprived from this tour, trying to catch some sleep in the cinema, and they're just running in, screaming at us, like bullying us and that.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, it's always I've done it that trip a few times. And it's always worse coming back for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm basically 45 minutes that way. That's where I was born. Haven't lived there for a long time. Moved to Manchester
Mm,
for work. Lived there for a couple of years, and then basically met the missus, and we moved back towards North Wales.
yeah, great.
Um, so yeah, like literally, I can be on Snowdon in an hour, like basically halfway up it, or I can
Yeah.
be in Manchester city centre in like 50 minutes as well.
Oh, great.
So
That's
location wise, that's kind of where I am.
that's what I'm kind of eyeing up for my next. Like, I want to move. I think at some point, out of
Mm,
Brighton again. I've lived in a few different places over the years, but I've always found myself back here, and I'm trying to pinpoint somewhere that's like a bit of a city, but also close to some mountains, or do you know what I mean? A
yeah,
bit more into
yeah,
the. You've got the downs and stuff here, but it's different. You don't quite have the fells and that kind of
yeah,
real wild, you know, geography. So I'm still trying to kind of
yeah.
pinpoint a place to for my next.
Manchester were pretty good for that because you could get to
Yeah,
the Lake District, but then like here's even better, really, because it's just a bit more
yeah.
rural. Like there's 200, probably 250 people in my village, but
Well, yeah,
half an hour and you're in Chester, which is
yeah.
it is a city, but it's not big, is it? It's yeah.
Mm.
The yeah, I like it's if I had my way, I'd probably move a little bit further out into the
Well,
mountains.
Yeah, well, like so, there's zero people in the village.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Funny enough, like my first ultra marathon was uh, London to Brighton. They don't run it anymore. It's like a
Oh,
it's
wow.
it was like 2009, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
I think it was 56 miles, and yeah, it always sticks for me. And just like finishing down the downs and onto Brighton Beach, and with just with the cobbles, with feet were fucked. Back then, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it always sticks with me. So like, I've got a good friend who lives in Brighton as a runner as well, and it always sticks with me, Brighton, just for that experience. It's one of those places, I think. Like, I've been to loads of places, but yeah, I can remember where I at. I can remember where I sat on a bench and all that kind of thing, just because it was just a fun place to be.
Yeah, man, it's great, and there is a big. It feels like there's a big running community down here because you've got. I mean, the Brighton Marathon's a big one, isn't it?
Mm,
Um, and just this, yeah, its proximity to the South Downs is so. From my house where I am now, I can jog 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you're in the South
yeah,
Downs, which is beautiful. So I've kind of contradicted everything I was saying about needing to go somewhere where where I can go to the trails. I'm kind of in the perfect spot here now, but yeah, nice. If you get the opportunity, you should get down again. I know there's quite a few. I know there's quite a few ultras, the South Downs ultras and that, which a
yeah.
few of mine have done and said are good. I think pretty.
Yeah, God, my friend runs like the Centurion running, so they do like the 50 mile and 100 mile events down on the downs quite a lot.
Mm,
Like yeah, and that old race that I did, it doesn't run anymore, but I think they're restarting it, so they're doing Brighton to London, the opposite direction. I
yeah,
mean, I'd much rather run into Brighton if I'm honest than
yeah,
run
I
into.
think so. Because otherwise you're starting out in all of the countryside and finishing in the city. It
Mm. Well,
feels a bit.
even before I did that, years before that, they used to do it as a road race. So you can imagine what that was probably like, just chaos.
Oh,
Just,
yeah, big time, man, big
yeah.
time.
So when did you like when did you start? When did running come in? Because I know you said you weren't particularly. Was it you weren't into sports or anything like that, or was it just that music had completely taken over? You didn't have the
Um,
opportunity. It was just.
you know what? I used to tell you what. At school, I used to play basketball. I like that. I like the
Mm,
variety of it. But do you know what? I've always preferred I think music. I liked. Yeah, as a kind of analogy, I love doing something that's kind of only I am responsible for it, if you know what I mean. I
yeah.
like kind of solo projects. Um, I found team sports a bit more difficult because there's so many factors out of your control. I kind of like the idea of just turning up on your own and it's you versus yourself. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but running, I'd say, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, 2023 now. I'd say I started running maybe, but in adulthood, I started messing around with running, and I'd say I started running properly or a bit more routinely, probably start of lockdown, I'd say. And
Mm,
I remember having quite a big stretch on it, where when I did like a period of time trying to cut back on the partying, and you can kind of see I looked through my back on my Strava log, and I was like, this 3 or 4 months when I was kind of clean on the straight and narrow, of I was running like every day and building fitness, and then it's come the summer, and I got back off the wagon, as it were, um, and then it kind of went on the back burner massively for quite a while again. Um, I'd say really the first when I first kind of made a real commitment to myself to run properly, and to kind of pick it up again would have been at the beginning of 2022.
mm,
Uh, and that's when I just first kind of went sober and clean for the final time, and I was massively overweight at that time, or I felt I was overweight and I needed to lose some weight, so I just started running because I was physically and mentally unfit, and I knew, if there's something wrong with me, be it in mind, body, or spirit, I know there are certain things you've got to keep in check
mm,
to aid that, and for me, I know exercise is one of them for me.
Did it change like did you find it was like almost like changing your energy to a certain extent? And were you frustrated when you know when you took running up a little bit
Mm,
and then like you say it went by the wayside for a short amount of time before you got yourself cleaned up again?
mm.
Were you frustrated in that time, like kicking yourself almost, or was it just natural ups and downs through life?
Mate, I think in that time I had such little self when I was kind of pre-sober and in quite a bad spate. I'd say I had so little self-awareness. I wasn't even that like. I think
Mm,
running wasn't something that I was like that concerned with in this grand kind of scheme of things. I knew it was something in the back of my head. I know I should be doing this. I know I should be exercising, but I knew that there were many other obstacles that I had to tackle before I could hone in on that. So it started as something, yeah, to get physically fit, and I was just road running basically, or running even on treadmill, just running any way I could,
mm,
just to lose weight and to get fit. And because I knew it was good for my head, even though I didn't feel like it didn't massively make me feel better instantly at all. I can't lie and say like I think there's a big kind of spiel that gets sold of running, like go for a run and all your kind of mental problems will go away. It
yeah.
definitely wasn't like that. I really had to persevere at it, and it was
When you
tough.
start out, mate, like I was, like when I started taking it a bit more serious, and it was almost by accident taking it serious. It was just that I was doing it more often, like I say,
Mm,
because I couldn't afford to do anything else really. Like it was, I was, I played football. And football was my thing when I was younger, so I thought of myself as quite fit. But I was also, like, I was in Manchester, out drinking and partying 4 nights a week with like in that past life, I was working as a hairdresser, trying to make it as a
okay,
hairdresser.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's imagine that lifestyle in Manchester, but like, but then taking up running. So it was hard, and I thought I was quite fit. So
yeah,
from football and stuff, but like the first couple of runs was just crap. So I always think when I hear these stories of people that haven't even had that background and they're chucking themselves into it, like it must have been 10 times harder those first couple of runs. So I'm always interested in like why did you go again and again and again?
yeah. I think I had a very strong sense of responsibility to myself.
Mm,
Like I really have that. After when you often get asked like, why do you do that, or why do you kind of stick so rigidly to that routine or to those things? I'm kind of like, I just felt like I had to, like I had a
mm,
responsibility to myself. If I was, I kind of made a final commitment to myself to try and build a better future and a better body, a stronger body, stronger mind. And I just knew I had to go see through it. I really like fell out of love even during this process. I'd say maybe like 9 months into it, I was just so bored of running on concrete, like of just
mm,
running on the pavement. I've just it was only until I started going stepping up the distances slightly and going eventually venturing out into the trails, which was what
mm,
completely just changed my perspective on it. And I was like, it just felt literally like chalk and cheese running because it's exercising compared to running for me when I get out there into the trails. Like it's like a spiritual experience. It's a
mm.
meditative. The thing I'm thinking about the least is probably the physical benefits that I get from it. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
it's like a way of spending time. So it's almost like socializing with myself, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's like doing a hobby with myself. Yeah, and but back to the original question, it's a testament that I was kind of correct in forcing myself to do those things because it did pay off, and it took a very long time for me to fall in love with it. But
Mm.
yeah, you've got things are difficult at first, and they
When
do.
you decided to go sober, was
Mm.
it like was it a culmination? Was it like you kept thinking you might do it, or was it a like a line in the sand kind of job?
Um, It was a bit of both, really. I think it took me like I knew something was very wrong in my life. I knew there was a big problem in my life. I don't think quite at the time I knew exactly what it was.
Mm,
I had for a long time a drinking drug problem, and I wanted to. My initial thought was to go sober for 3 months, so that with the idea that if I was then to reintroduce drinking again, it wouldn't be something where drink and drugs are linked like this, which
Yeah, got
that's
you.
I wanted to just kind of break that link. And then when I went sober and kind of the 3 months were up, I was like, I think the most insane thing I could possibly do right now is
Yeah.
to start cracking on again and start reintroduce something into my life after I was starting to reap big rewards from it. Oh, do you know what? Not even rewards, just like just having some self awareness, mate, and
Mm.
what they call, a moment of clarity in my life. And then I've kind of discovered a more purposeful, meaningful life that I kind of wanted for a long time and didn't know how to achieve. And you know, exercising, running, pushing myself physically and mentally then became a big part of that. And then I think it's quite a common theme I find in especially like trail and longer distance running of like people that are perhaps somewhat obsessive, which I know is a word that you said earlier, like
Yeah.
obsessive, addictive, and I'm a very obsessive and very kind of
Mhm.
addiction prone person. And I feel like running is something that you can kind of fill that hole somewhat. And if you do it in a responsible way, that's kind of, you're not hammering yourself, as you know,
Mm.
it's very possible to do, then it can kind of, yeah, it gave my life a bit more meaning after, I think after losing a big, sorry, I've lost my tangent a little bit here.
Go on, mate.
When I stopped drinking and stopped partying, I felt like I lost a huge part of my identity that
Yeah.
was for so long just being a party boy, a good time guy, like that was who I was. And I think when I stopped and I lost that, um, reconnecting to what I was like when I was a much younger kid, which I mentioned to you earlier when we were off camera, like I used to love mountain biking out in the forest.
Mm.
I found myself rooting back to these things I enjoyed when I was younger, and I managed to connect to them through trail running and regain a lot of my kind of truer identity of myself that had been buried, I think, through my adulthood.
Yeah, it's like like good on you first of all, mate, because you've done it in, from what I can see, like a brilliant way as well. Because I'm always a little bit, like you say, sometimes careful with my words because a lot of people say, "Oh, they're addicted to running," or they get addicted to running. Whereas I prefer to say like I got a bit obsessive over it. It's not an
Mm,
addiction. Like I've got
mm,
friends that have had addictions, kind of thing.
yeah,
So I'd be almost like doing them a disservice, kind of
yeah,
thing, to say I was addicted to running.
yeah,
Like you probably feel a little bit, but yeah, being obsessed with something, I think it can be a good thing as long. But you're doing it as like, oh, as far as I can see, yeah, you're out and you're being out in nature, or you're out for your trail runs, and that is consistent, but it's not like yeah, you're not pushing it too much, if that
yeah.
makes
I think you hit the nail on the head, mate. I think what I always understood addiction as is like repeated behaviour that you know is detrimental to yourself. Do you know what I
sense.
mean? So
Yeah,
if you're doing something, I think obsession can be a great thing. I'm obsessed with music. I'm
yeah. Mm,
obsessed with kind of, you know, being a better person than I was yesterday. I'm obsessed with running, definitely, like you said. And I think, yeah, as long as that doesn't, I think if you were to use running as a vessel for some kind of negative addiction, then that's a problem that actually probably has nothing to do with running. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Um, but yeah, no, it's definitely like you just touched on. It's definitely just as much about getting out and spending time in nature as it is the kind of performance side of it. And because I do love that side of it as well. I do love the kind of just the training aspect of it and feeling yourself getting fitter. I like to kind of keep a healthy balance of the hippie, like out in nature, enjoying it, and then also like the athletic side of it. I try not to get too bogged down in the numbers and
yeah,
all of that stuff because there's so much of it now. There's so many metrics that you can measure things by that is the kind of stuff that can that if I wasn't careful I could get too sucked into that. So I try and keep that stuff away. And I hear you preach a lot about that. Like even something just like the perceived effort. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
I can
Yeah.
imagine with your brain, you probably see like music as almost like the Matrix kind of thing. So what what you almost don't want to do is fall into that data trap of runners and just keep it as you're doing, mate.
Nice. So yeah, it's so true, man. It's so true. It's the same with music. Like everything is quantified, and there's so much data, and music's so screened. That matrix binary is how I find a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it's a good way to disconnect. I don't even listen to music when I'm out doing like a long trail, and I won't even listen to music unless things get really tough. Like
Mm.
I'll have headphones on me, like in case I bonk hard. But
That was going to be one of the questions I have because I get asked about what do I like, what podcasts do I listen to and stuff like this, and
mm,
I very rarely listen to a running podcast or like running content because like it's like that's my job a lot of the
yeah,
time. So I'm at the laptop coaching, and then I might listen to a podcast while I'm doing the coaching work. But when I'm out running, yeah, I'll listen to music usually,
mm,
or a podcast or an audio book, but on a completely like maybe like it might be fiction or something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas, like, you're coming from a point of view, you could be in a studio all day and then you go for a run. Like, so what do you do? Is it just literally about being outdoors? You won't have music on at all.
If I'm so, I'd say I'll get out into the trails at least once or twice a week. Yeah, what at least once for a long run. All
Mm,
the other days when I'm just kind of training, like it would be at muscular endurance or strength or just easy runs in the city, I will have headphones on and
yeah,
listen because I don't like listening to cars and
yeah,
fucking.
got you.
But when I get out into the trails, yeah, I don't listen to music then. I just love the sound of nothing, of quiet and of like birds and
Mm.
all of that stuff. I just love the peace and quiet of it, mate.
Do you
Often don't.
find like when people say like if it that aren't running or that they don't go for these runs, a lot of the time I'll get asked by friends and family like, what do you think about? And I can't answer them if I'm honest a lot of the time
Yeah,
because you're just out there and then you come back and you're like, well, what were you thinking about for all that time? Nothing. Like spend enough time thinking when I'm in here.
mate, it's so true. It's so true. Sometimes like I think about like so much, but it's also nothing. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? There's so my brain's constantly
Oh
distilling.
yeah. All the best ideas and all that kind of thing when you're out there and it's just gone.
Exactly, literally that. So, and I love that. I love like sometimes when you're feeling on top of the world and the sun's shining, I can have like really nice, positive conversations with myself about plans in the future and about what I'm going to do, and everything feels possible. And then other days, when it's really tough, like
Yeah.
uh, sometimes I just kind of I sit back and like let that negative voice in my head just talk, and I just kind of listen to it and like meditate on it a little bit. I don't, yeah,
Mhm.
I can never think of what I think about. I like to stop. I like to take photos as well. I love doing that. Like when I'm out in the trails, stop, have a little breather, take a few photos. Um, but yeah, it is it's a long amount of time to kind of spend weekly with yourself.
Mhm.
Just out running. I can get why people would be like, that sounds like
Like,
crazy.
have you tried like meditation and stuff in the past? Because I have. Like, I've done. Like, I had a mentor for a long time that was like big on self development and stuff, and
Mhm.
like it was what I probably needed at the time to work on myself. But yeah, I struggled with meditation because like to be fair, this was more guided meditation, so they're walking you through it. But I can't empty like when people say you just empty your head of thoughts. It's like I'm just lying there, almost like buzzing with thoughts. It's like I'm not meditating. It's like just pointless. And I'm out on the trail for 10, 15 hours a week. I don't need to sit there quiet in a room, kind of thing.
100%. Man, I get the complete same, and I reckon a lot of runners that you'd ask would say a similar thing. I feel like
Yeah.
people often run because they've got very busy, loud, chattery minds, and that it's that getting out and doing the exercise that quiets it. I can't really sit down
Mm,
and meditate like that, and I never have. I've tried it quite a few times because I've always known like I need something to quiet my mind because my mind's busy, like it can
mm,
get really busy. And I've always tried all the different things like meditating, CBD, blah blah blah, everything. And it's only running really the thing that's like being able to actually achieve that. Um, but like I said earlier, it's not to say that every run makes me feel great, man. Like
mm.
sometimes if you wake up in a bad mood and you go out and run and have a really challenging run, I get home and still in a bad mood and I'm really tired and hungry. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't always work like that, but it's definitely a force for good on my on my busy brain for sure.
It's like anything, you've got to look overall, haven't you? If we just went on one run, or just yeah, if the running dictated your mood every day, like I have to think like that, then
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be in a shit place with work and everything. It just has to be a constant, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's kind of like how it makes you feel, how you feel about it's kind of irrelevant. You've got to have that kind of, you got to get it done
Mm.
regardless. But I mean, it's interesting. How do you kind of, what are the, because this is a question I get asked a lot about the music. Like, how do you find doing something that you love as a job, and how does that kind of change it? But I'd like to kind of
Mm.
pose that same question to you. Like, how is your kind of, how's your relationship with running changed the more professional it's become in your life?
Yeah, like you say, it definitely changed, and it's only in the last few years I realised how much it's changed because, like I say, I started off running in Manchester down the canals and stuff, and people have heard me tell me this story before, but like that's like I met my now wife, but originally, uh, yeah, she was living in Leicester and I was in Manchester, and I entered the Leicester Half Marathon as my first race just so I could go and spend the weekend at her place, and it's like the creepiest origin story ever, but it's like
No, sweet man.
but that's how it kind of kicked off, and
Yeah,
like all these old men beat me and all that kind of thing, and I was just like we were saying before, I became obsessive about learning about running because for the
mm,
first time, like I'd been to school, been to college, didn't really know what I was doing. Like the hairdressing thing was good, but because it was creative, but it was more the social thing that I enjoyed, that kind
yeah,
of thing. So yeah, I was just lucky in the fact that I'd found running. I could do it pretty much every day. It didn't cost me anything, and the races I was entering, yeah, I wasn't doing particularly well at the start, and then, but like you said before about what I put in, you were getting out. Yeah, I was getting better and better at this running, and the positions were going up, and then I entered a race and did it even better, that kind of thing.
mm,
So, and this was before. That was just when I was just running for myself, and then what happened was it was like, and you might resonate with this. I had this life of going out in Manchester all the time and drinking and partying and all that kind of stuff. But then, like my Sunday run was starting to, like the value of that was starting to outweigh the partying. So I
yeah,
started to
yeah,
distance myself from that so that I could. I was like, well, I want to run on Saturday, so I'm not going out Friday for a few drinks after work or whatever. Um, I just started getting better that way.
yeah,
And it was only after about 2 years I had an opportunity to just basically leave and put a bit of cash into training as a personal trainer. So at that point, I was just a personal trainer, but as a 9 stone runner then, basically.
yeah,
So I was
yeah,
attracting runners. So then all of a sudden my life was kind of shifting to my the group I was in was runners and stuff like this. Um, like over the years, first 5, probably 10 years, I just wanted to be a better runner and I was competitive with myself more than anything. But there was races I was doing well in, so it was all about basically getting better in the competition and
mm,
essentially growing my business a bit as well. As I got older and more recently, like now, like the coaching business has to come first, along with the family and kids.
yeah,
So,
of course.
so like I'm basically like I've said this before, but I was a runner that coached, and now I'm a coach that runs these events when I
Mm,
can and enjoy them. So I love running to the point where I would run twice a day easily, like I said, if I could, if your body would hack it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I've always had a really good relationship with running, as in, I just love it. Like I speak to a lot of people that like they run and they might have been running for 10 years, but I can tell they don't particularly enjoy it. Like,
yeah, yeah,
how do I motivate myself every day? And it's like I don't need motivation or willpower. There's days where I don't want to run and I can't be asked and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's become so ingrained in me. Then that's just what I do. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful thing, though, to do something that you truly, as you said, love
mm,
every day. That is a beautiful thing, and
I think
even I think it's such a can be such a cornerstone for so many different elements of your life as well. Like when you said about the not you don't want not wanting to go out on the Saturday because you were looking forward to your run on the Sunday. It can
Mm,
like it kind of forces better lifestyle choices and behaviors on you because you care about the running, and kind of as a byproduct of it, you're like, it's really showing compassion to yourself as a person. Do you know what I mean? Like, not
yeah.
even the things that you like, you thinking, oh, I want to put the running first and not go out, but actually, you're doing yourself a big favor as well.
Mm,
But no, it's an interesting story, and I like that it's kind of it ends on the kind of the your story ends on you doing something that you love every day. I don't think you can ask. I don't think you can ask for much more than that, man. That's good
no.
stuff. It's good
And
to hear.
I'm always aware of it as well, that like I'm quite privileged to be able to do that. Like it is my job essentially. I'm not a professional runner, but like I
Yeah,
get to coach for a living. So yeah, I just do stuff to protect that. So if I don't take on too much work, if I don't have to, that
yeah,
kind of thing, because I know I've been in stages where I've had too much work and I've been running too much,
mm,
and I've just been useless, like useless as a person, basically. So just no energy,
yeah,
stressed, like just shit with the wife, all the usual stuff. So
yeah,
I just I've probably I'm still not great at it, but I've just learned to get better at it because I've been like I'll openly admit I've been really selfish in the past as well. It's like this is me, this is my running, everyone else has to fit in with me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like family changed that, but again, I'm 40 this year, and I'm only just getting better at it now. Like, if I'm honest, like I
yeah,
think I've got a good balance now, and that's only because I can't train as I did like 10 years ago. Just I haven't got the time.
mm,
But that's what everyone is in that position, whether they've got a 9 to 5, whether they've got other passions. Um, yeah, I still think, but for me, running is the anchor.
yeah,
So if I'm fit and healthy and I'm running well, I can guarantee that like relationship at home is going well, my business is going well. When it's not, and I've had if I've gone out like if I've gone out and I've had too many beers, very rarely I get to the chance now, but I've had when you experience a 2 3 day hangover, and it's like
mm,
then you get fucking pissed off that your energy is so low for those days, and it's like I'm not completely sober, but I just had to knock all that on the head because
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
not sustainable to do the stuff that you love. Like you say, like you would once you start valuing just going out on the trails, and it might be running, it might be getting on a bike or just hiking or whatever. Having that in place definitely helps. Just happens that I get like to coach it as well.
yeah, and I think. Yeah, it's really interesting. The kind of it's like almost it's a fine balance. You've got to balance all of spinning all of these plates, and running can be quite a big one. Like you say, it is easy to get a bit selfish with it. Like,
Mm.
no, I have to go out for 5 hours on the Sunday on my own. Like, which
Yeah,
kind of if in any other context is probably like is how acceptable actually is that. But I think it's about balancing them all, and like for example. I knew coming up to my tour, I was training really hard at the beginning of the year, and I
mm,
knew as the tour approached, I'm gonna have to take my foot off the pedal because I'm too tired, I'm too fatigued at the moment, and it's selfish of me if I go into the very physical month of work ragged because I've been pushing myself doing what I love on the trails too much. It's not, it's a bit selfish. So sometimes I do have to make those choices, like you know enjoy the running the most when I can, and I do try to be as consistent as possible. But there are some times when I have to. It can't always come first for me.
yeah,
um, I have to be able to be prepared to drop it for when life demands that you've got to go and do something else on a Sunday. But that being said, yeah, I have been able to be pretty consistent. Bar I had a stretch for my tour and a bit of illness this year, but bar that, it's been pretty good, pretty smooth sailing. But yeah,
have
long
you
may.
been doing? Have you done any events, or do you plan to do any events?
I've got one in September, the 60 km leg of the 13 Valleys Ultra in
Up
the
in the
Lake.
lake?
Yeah, mate. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be my first ever event of any nature.
Nice.
Um,
I
Oh,
thought you were going to tell me you were doing the full route then.
no, no. I mean, I'm pretty. I've ran some of the route already when I was last there, like just for fun. I reckon I've done about half of it. So I've got like, I'm not going in completely blind, but I've got to definitely train hard. I mean, I don't. Might feel somewhat bit of naivety as that as a first event, but
No.
don't. I just don't. Like, I was entered when I first picked up running again. I entered the Brighton Half because I just felt it would be good to have a goal to get to. And then by the time I had actually done a half marathon on the trails, way ahead of the event, like
Yeah.
what's the point? I'm not looking to go in for like a competitive competitive time, so I just fucked it off and didn't go. But I might try and get something over the summer as well. I'd quite like a marathon distance over the summer, just because I'll probably do it as part of my training anyway.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's the only one in at the moment, which I'm really looking forward to it. I love being up in the lakes. It's second to none for me. I think it's the end of September, so it could either be like the most beautiful kind of transition of the season, summer into autumn weather, or it could be
Peak numbers, yeah.
yeah, or it could be absolutely horrendous. But yeah, no, we'll see. What about yourself? What have you got? Anything in the pipeline? Or oh, you got the Snowdonia?
Yeah, I've got that Snowdonia thing next week. So
Oh,
that's 100 miles a week on Friday, mate.
wow, wow.
Yeah.
How was your training been?
Yeah, it's gone quite well. Like, I've always, one thing I've always been good at is training for events. But
Mm.
then, like, uh, after an event last year, September, I'd done the Dragon's Back. I don't know if you've seen that. That's when you like run down the spine of Wales, basically.
Yeah,
So,
I've watched. Yeah, I've watched the documentary about it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I've been lucky to do that twice, and at the end of that one, I was left with a bit of an injury, uh, and it kind of snowballed. Then I got COVID before Christmas.
oh,
Um, then then my dog died, and that like hit me quite hard, like
oh,
all of it
mate.
just at
Yeah,
once over Christmas, and I didn't really realize how much, if I'm honest. Uh, so when I had this event at the end of January, I'd had some chest issues, not like as in heart issues, but like just from the lingering from COVID.
mm,
Went into it thinking I've been doing this so long, I'll just be okay. But it was a nice wake up call because I wasn't okay. I was like unfit, wasn't ready, did have some breathing issues, and pulled the plug. And that's one times where I've probably given up when I could have carried on. But
yeah,
I was fine with it. I've had injuries and stuff in races, but I just mentally wasn't there. So
mm,
then, actually, off the back of that, I've trained really well literally up until last week, which was just I just had to be at home with the kids a little bit more, sorting them out. But
yeah,
again, it's like a week in the. And I have to remind this to people I coach as well. So I had to remind myself it was like a week out of like 12 that hasn't gone that well. And it wasn't like I couldn't run. I was just running like from the house for an hour rather than going out into Snowdonias. It wasn't like I couldn't run.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, that
So
sounds like a pretty good block.
I've
Uh,
got no excuses really. It's like, yeah, people like me included, we like to look for excuses before one of these things where I'm going to tell myself I've got no excuses this time.
yeah, you must know the route like the back of your hand. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting though. I'm really sorry for your loss with your dog as well. Can't imagine how difficult that is, and I think that really highlights how intrinsically linked physical, mental, emotional stress
Yeah.
all is, and how your body, when you get fried, how your body cannot tell the difference between which is which. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Sometimes,
I was slightly tested mentally in that race, and I pulled the
yeah,
plug. And
yeah,
I've been in, and I've finished a race with two broken elbows before and things like this. So I'm like, it was just a clear picture to me. Like my brain wasn't ready more than
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to look zoom out and look at the big picture of the kind of what's the long term plan. Um,
Mm.
is perhaps pushing on gonna perhaps potentially damage the success of the key races or whatever it is. Well, that's exciting though. That's super exciting for you for
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah. It is then I can have a rest. So what made you choose the 13 ultras, the 13 valleys?
Um,
How much of it? 60K, did you say?
60K. So I think that I think it's the five valleys. I think it's five of the
What it's
first.
called? Yeah,
Kind of. Are we? Are you edit? Will you edit this?
I can do.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I was just gonna put it up so I get the name right. But
Yeah,
um, yeah. Let me see.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Five valleys. Yeah. Five
Yeah,
valleys.
you're doing five valleys. Yeah, got you.
Yeah, mate, that's it. Yeah, I'm doing the five. Yeah, so I'm doing the five valleys. I picked it because I mean I was looking through so many like, and a lot of what it was actually the dates
Yeah,
originally, because there was loads in the spring. I'm always touring in the spring and August, and most of the summer's festivals. So like the final quarter of the year is actually usually always the freest for me with my free time. It's like
mm,
uh, yeah, it chills out a bit for me then. And also, I just come back from a trip in the Lake District, and I looked at the kind of route, and I saw, oh, I've ran like through,
lots of
you know, one of these valleys, the Troutbeck Valley or whatever it was,
that.
and I thought that was beautiful. I absolutely loved every second of it. And this was in January, probably some of the worst weather I've ever experienced in my life. But I still absolutely fucking loved it. So I
Mm,
thought, yeah, that it just kind of spoke to me, and I just booked it kind of you know, on a whim. And now the time has come round where just kind of yeah, I need to knuckle down now really. But just yeah, kind of only now I think getting into some more,
wanting to do some.
yeah, some more kind of specific training as well for this one. Whereas kind of I always had in my head up until the tour, I'm just going to get the miles in whichever way I want and just enjoy them. And now I'm having to think about, you know, some more kind of specific training, because I know if anything, I know I think I think I'll have the mind for it. And I think I've got the chest for it, but it's just making sure that my legs. I think if anything goes, it'll be my legs. Do you know what I mean? As a result of the hills, so I'm
Yeah.
just making sure I'm.
If your legs go before your head, you're all right. I always say because
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean,
I always that's what I always miss. And when I speak to people, that's why I like speaking to people almost at the beginning of racing. That naivety of just like almost like throwing yourself in for things because it's quite rare now because there's so much choice.
yeah,
There's so much like on social media about what other people are racing and that kind of thing. Racing, ultra races and trail races have always been horrendous at trying to find what is on where and that kind of thing. The
yeah,
websites are always dog shit and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like just having that naivety of going, oh, yeah, just go and do that is a good thing. I would keep that as long as you can. Just don't, whether it scares you or whatever, that's a good thing. Because obviously Brighton Half didn't scare you enough to go and do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. No,
Uh,
yeah, I like that. I think, yeah, I just, yeah, I didn't think about it too much. I just went for it, and I think, yeah, that I'll try and certainly hold on to that moving forward. I don't want to get too bogged down. I don't have any kind of I don't have any time in mind. Like I don't, you know, things like that. I don't care about it. It's a challenge for me, for myself. I'm not going into any kind of like competitive nature. Really, it's just a personal challenge, and I want to get out there and enjoy some of the outdoors, and yeah, hopefully manage to cross the finish line. That's all it is for me.
Good mate. And you say you've got like this is one thing I forgot to ask before. You seem to be prolific at putting out the music. Like I was going through your Spotify, yeah, and like, well, number one, I was like, Jesus, like the numbers are massive, aren't they? And that's just on Spotify, really for your music. But in terms of listens, but also just the library of songs that you've put out over the years is it just like if you got that much like inspiration, or do you just love it that much? And what I was going to say is because like, that's the other thing with running. It just seems to be such consistent over 10 years. You've just put them out, put them out, put them out.
Mm.
I assume for what you and what you both like at that time and what you've been working on, no matter up to almost maybe I might get this wrong, but whether people like it or not, obviously you care about that. But yeah, you're just doing the music and putting it out.
I think, mate, I think you're nailed on the head. I'm a musician.
Mm,
I have to make music, and if I make music, I want to release it and share it with people. I think, especially as an independent musician, like I think you have to give people something to enjoy and to just to consume in a way. We don't have the luxury of like taking years out, and I wouldn't want to either. I think
yeah.
I just like, yeah, I love making music, mate. It's what comes naturally to me. It's what I do. It's what I'll always do. And if I'm doing it, it's people are going to hear it. I think. Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I had something to say. My brain's gone completely blank. Um,
Just with the consistency and putting it out, is it literally just that? Just because you love it and you would be making it probably whether you were. Let's turn it around. Like if you were a pro runner, would you still be making music? Do you think?
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's just what I do. It's hard to even comprehend not making it, but I appreciate like I'm proud of the size of the catalog of our music.
Mm,
I'm able to kind of consistently deliver it like that, and it never feels forced. And I never. I think the thing is, we never try and sit down, or we really try to avoid from sitting down. Like, right, this next record is the fucking one. It has to be the one. It's never been like that, man. It's marginal gains for us always. Like
mm.
try and get a little bit better every time we do it. And it's a long game. I'm trying to build a lifelong career. Um,
Because you've got like a real distinctive sound, I think, but also at the same time, because I'll be listening to them, and like I've been listening to Matt running, and then one will come like completely out of left field almost, like whether with the sound and the feel of it and that kind of thing. So it's obviously still YouTube, but yeah, I was like, oh, where did that one come from, kind of thing, and then I have to really listen to the lyrics a bit more. Like all that stuff is great, mate. I think.
oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I have to. We have to keep it interesting for people, and I think also another bonus of the fact that it's just me and Frankie is we can work very quickly.
Yeah.
There's not many steps in the process. I make the beat, he writes the lyrics, we record it, we decide as a team that we like it, and we upload it, and it's out. There's not much red tape we have to go through. There's not much
Mm.
relying on lots of different producers and other people to get their shit done in on time. We can work very efficiently. Um, we like to work in chunks a lot of the time, so we'll often a few times a year we'll book, or maybe once a year, book like a writing trip away. So we'll go. Last time we went up to on the Malvern Hills, and we just packed the studio in the back of the car and drive up there into like a countryside rural retreat and put the studio up, and we'll have like a week of just solid
Yeah.
music, and then we'll go away and that, and then we'll add to it and add to it, and um, yeah, kind of like working like that in big chunks. Because when we get in our flow, we can really make music quite quickly. I think it's always been that way, man. I think we know when to kind of continue with an idea, and we know when to knock it on the head.
Mm.
Like if we're listening to something, if we've got a little idea on the go in the studio, and it's not giving you that feeling in your chest, like this is the best piece of music that anyone's ever made in history, like then it's not the one, and you should be knocked on the head.
Got you.
But
Yeah, I only missed the end of that. I wish some of the runners I coach would have that mentality of like if something's not working or that race isn't working, they should drop it.
yeah, yeah, man. It's funny. The more we speak, there are a lot of parallels in I think my kind of philosophy of music and my
Mm.
kind of how we've done it as even in a business sense or in a career sense. There are a lot of parallels to the same way I treat the
I
treat.
guess at some point, like now, even like you're only 27, but you've been doing it long enough to go. You almost yeah, because you've been doing it every day and you just kept it consistent. You almost not that you don't know how you got there, but like sometimes I look back and it's like I'm very experienced at what I do all of a sudden, yeah, and
Mhm.
like, it's like, and then you look back and yeah, you just have to you have to back yourself sometimes and go, yeah, well, I've been doing this every day and I've been committed to it, so you gotta like be proud of what you've achieved, even though like you say you haven't gone out and purposely try to do massive things overnight. It's just been a grind almost for 10 years.
That's it. Yeah, it's lots of continuous daily decisions and daily actions that over a long time add up, really, isn't it? Like there has been no defining moment in our career. Like
Mm,
it's been slow and steady, small wins every day. I think that's longevity is a really important thing for me in all aspects of life. Don't want to burn fast and bright, which I kind of spent a lot of my younger years. It's that mindset. Like when I was younger, like I genuinely thought I don't. I used to joke around like I don't think I'd live past the age of fucking 40. You know what I mean? But deep down, I think I actually like believed it. Like that idea of longevity never really occurred to me. It's like why would I play a long game when I in my brain I can have everything now? I want everything now, and I've just really flipped that on its head, man, and just tried to. Um, yeah, let's build something that can last a long time, always with us. I want to still be making music many years to come, God willing. Um, yeah, that's the plan.
good stuff, mate. Yeah, thanks for that. I've kept you for an hour now, but before you go, like we know what you're doing next in running up until September. Where can we like give me some of the? Well, I know because I've had a look, but what are some of the festivals you're going to be at over the summer? Is it mainly festivals more than gigs, like
So
your
it's
own?
yeah, sorry, it's festivals now. We've just finished our European and UK tour, which is incredible, and now for the rest of the year, it's going to be festivals. We've got lots abroad: Switzerland, Sweden, Netherlands, Austria, Germany, and in the UK close to home, we've got a good few as well. Boardmasters, we've got Project Six Festival this month in London, and plus quite a few more that actually haven't been announced yet that I can't say. But yeah, there's a lot of about 15
Very
festivals across the summer, so that's going to be me now, kind of me for the rest of the summer. Leading into that, it's going to be a nice way to juggle the kind of the peak training period of August for that ultras when I've got like eight festivals. I don't know how that's going to quite work out, but man, that's what it's all about.
So if we see Harvey Gunn just running around the perimeter of these fences,
Yeah, running up and down on stage. But yeah, man, yeah, yeah, it'd be great. Next time we're on the road again, next time we're on the tour, you have to make it down to
yeah, I'll come out, mate. Definitely, yeah,
up to
yeah,
Manchester or something. That was a great one last time, man.
definitely, mate. Yeah, thanks for that. It's let me get this right. No, you tell me. What was your Instagram? I know what your Instagram, but let me know what was what is the what's the Instagram for you two?
For me and Frankie,
Yeah, FS and
FS and HG, so it's like the
FS,
initials, yeah.
yeah, and website.
FSandHG.com.
And what was your Instagram, mate? Just Harvey Gunn.
Harvey Gunn underscore. But
Harvey Gunn underscore. Like me, I've got Gary House underscore.
have you? Yeah, some fucker's got it, man. And it's one of them when you go on their profile, someone with like zero followers, zero following.
Yeah, mine's actually like some like American guy who's quite big in like outdoors cooking. So I had no chance
Oh,
because
really?
like a legit. He's got a legit account. I was like,
Oh,
shit.
that's funny. Funny little crossover as well.
Yeah, there's not too many though. If you put in Gary House, I think I can still pop up quite quick.
Yeah, I reckon so,
Same
man.
with you, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly that.
Right, cheers, mate. Thanks a lot for sharing your story, mate. It was really interesting, and yeah, good luck with with the Five Valleys Ultra, mate.
Oh, thanks a lot, mate. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, keep up the good work, man.
Cheers, buddy.